Slavery equals survival. Now, why did I say these statements? Well, I've heard a lot of people say on forums and the such that, you know, people who are slaves, they have no awareness, they have no consciousness, and though it may look so, my introspection actually has one point to say. People who act like slaves, they actually have a sense of awareness, and it is a very dangerous one if not attended, or at least it can be dangerous, because if we look in history, it's usually been the masters who have been killed by their slaves. Now, obviously, the masters have power and, well, they may kill as many slaves as they want, but even if that happens, the slaves are far more numerous than the masters. And sooner or later, well, many well-known, let's say, people throughout history, right, be them kings or counts or whatever, many of them have ended up slain by, well, their so-called followers. Now, slavery is something that has a sense of awareness, though it can be minimalistic, at least. The point about slavery is it appears when someone feels that they are defenseless or helpless, and they seek one of those relationships in which one provides, and, well, they become subservient and do whatever to, ensure that they preserve that which is given to them. What some people may say protection tax, or just like in medieval times where there was the landlord and the people working the land, right? And the landlord owned the house along with their family, and everyone else would do the chores needed, right? But at the same time, things could have gone better because, well, everyone more or less lived in the house, but it's much easier when you feel overpowering and serving your own ego. Doesn't mean you're a master, it just goes to show you're a different type of slave. But all this in life is nothing else than experiencing. When it comes to slaves, though, they do have a awareness, and that is the minimalistic awareness, at least, which is the awareness of survival. The impulse of survival will have people do literally whatever, and it goes with animals as well, because animals, they're not slaves. People may be stupid enough to think that the animals would accept to be slavered, right, to humans, but actually they're not. It is something called gratification, because if you were to live alone, you would have to fend for yourself, right? You would have to seek your own food. So for animals, instant gratification is as powerful as it is for humans, because instead of foraging as an animal, you have someone who actually gives you food, they give you shelter, so why even bother, right? But it doesn't mean that the animal is necessarily a slave. Yes, they may be complacent, some of them even fully complacent, but there is this point which also happens to humans, right? Some of them will gladly agree to give their powers to someone who's, willing to help them survive. But at the same time, never forget that slavery actually means survival, because they're interested in survival. And the point is, if someone can offer them better conditions, well, if you've been a bad master, the problem is they might actually turn against you when someone offers them far better, right? When someone offers them better conditions, a better treatments, well, slavery is a relationship in which no emotions are usually implied, right? Because not even in sadomasochistic relationships, right, there is no emotion in there. People may feign some emotions, but ultimately there is nothing else than impulse, right? Some people want to rule, some people want to be ruled. But if you've been looking through videos that I've posted on this channel, the point is, everything in this life is reversed. As I've said, the master is the slave and the slave is the master. Because the one who plays the slave, they are the one in charge, because they are the one who tell the other person how they want to be behaved with, right? How they want to be treated, right? So the point is, well, those who think they are masters, well, they are double the slaves, because they do what the other one's bidding is, and at the same time they are slaves to their own egos. to their own impulses. Let's call them impulses because it's better if you say impulses. And these things don't show any emotion at all because the impulse is, well, it may give some emotion, but if it is an impulsive emotion, it kind of doesn't matter. If it is an emotion that you manifest consciously, therefore it is something that you do with your whole awareness, which is beyond your impulses, well, that's a whole difference. Because in this way, well, things are much more different. If you simply act based on impulse, you simply react to things, and that's how things go. If you only react to things, you're easy to control. You're easy to be angered, for example, by someone, and they who anger you control you, right? So when it comes to slaves, people may be as, complacent as possible. But the point about complacency is it's only nothing else than survival. It is a coping mechanism. And, well, slavery unfortunately also goes hand in hand with comfort zone. Because nowadays, what's the problem with many people? Well, their comfort zone is aka their prison. And, well, the point is, when you have a prison, to people who feel worthless, well, they are easiest to slaver because people who are worthless, they can't accept things in their life. And once they hit a comfort zone, it is the best distraction. And a distraction is, well, disempowering. But the point is, people will feel at ease, right? It is that impulse that says, well, as an animal, impulses are nothing else than, well, let's call them animalistic or nature-like. And these are the coping mechanisms and, the coding of nature, that which can be transcended by the human because the human was designed to be able to do that. Animals live their own life in their own prisms of life, right? And, well, to a certain extent it can be a prison because they don't have the full awareness of humans. They have a certain awareness as well. But when it comes to survival, if you look at animals, the most representative aspects of them is, well, what can be called the senses, right? Every wild animal has a set of senses which is the most developed. Because when survival is the most important part of your life, and if we are to take this into account for the millions or billions probably of years that those animals have existed, it is obvious that they have constantly developed those senses to become better and better. So that is why the animals have far better senses than humans. We humans have created our societies. We have been living in these societies, and that's why we have different senses. We have senses which allow us to read, others. Well, not everyone is capable, but some people are capable of easily reading others. Or, we have some social senses or different other aspects like this. Now, these actually exist within us, even if these sick days, well, would have us be as little social as possible. The point is, those still exist within us. We still have, based on evolution, the mirror neurons, which are highly important. They're highly critical to survival. So when it comes to slavery, don't think that a slave is nothing else than a drone. That drone still has some emotions, they still have some needs. And they also have one other important thing: survival. That is why people shouldn't ever mess with people who are interested, or, well, who are just living in their survivals, because those impulses are the strongest possible, right? It is the baby, right, the child, that has the loudest cry of all the animals, right? Because in any animal race, when they are the youngest, right, when they are cubs, children, kids, whatever you call them, it is then when they have the loudest cries, when they are calling for their mothers because they feel defenseless. When they are older, those cries aren't as, high-pitched, most likely. But, some animals may still roar or, shout or whatever, or shriek violently. But the point is, the child is the one that has the loudest sounds, right? The most high-pitched. Because that is survival, right? The basic impulse of literally everything. It is that which literally guides everything. It is that which also guides a certain plant. when they start growing from a seed, they know they have to grow in a certain direction, and it is survival that allows them to simply, beat the layers of ground they have been buried under and simply flourish at the surface. Because, it is also survival that is pushing them against, all the pressure that the soil is exhibiting against them. Like, when a flower simply bursts from underground, if we are to take it at that microscopic level, the moment when they burst from underground, that can be almost similar to a huge explosion, right? On our scale, when it comes to one of our bombs. That's how powerful pressure they can make against the earth to simply free themselves and embrace the light of the sun. Because, well, again, survival is the most powerful mechanism. And if people fail to understand this mechanism, well, they are prone to failure. Because everyone who simply disregarded the survival of others, well, they've had a bad ending. All this being said, you are appreciated. Hopefully this video is introspective enough. Take care of yourselves. Happy New Year. Range and Board signing out.